Whether you're creating music from your bedroom studio or producing tracks for a big name artist, the computer you use plays a crucial role in shaping your workflow. In today's video, we're diving into how the different components of your computer, like the CPU, RAM, and hard drive, affect the performance of your music production software. Let's start with the heart of your computer, the CPU, or Central Processing Unit. Think of the CPU as the brain of your computer. It handles all the heavy lifting when it comes to calculations and running processes. Music production software, like digital audio workstations, use the CPU to process audio tracks, apply effects, run virtual instruments, and handle real-time mixing. The more complex your project, the more demanding it is on the CPU. Imagine you're working on a track with 50 plus tracks, tons of plugins and virtual instruments. If your CPU isn't fast enough, you'll experience lag, stuttering, or even crashes. For smooth playback and efficient workflow, a powerful multi-core processor is essential, especially for projects with a high track count or demanding plugins. Next up is RAM, or Random Access Memory. RAM is your computer's short-term memory, and it's used to temporarily store the data needed for your current project. When you're working with music production software, each plugin, virtual instrument, and sample loaded into your DAW needs to be stored in RAM. The more RAM you have, the more data you can keep available for quick access. This means fewer delays or slowdowns when you're switching between different sections of your project. If you run out of RAM, your system will start to use your hard drive as a backup, which is much slower and can cause major performance issues like audio dropouts or slow rendering times. So how much RAM do you need? A general rule of thumb is 16 gigs is a solid starting point, but if you're dealing with massive orchestral libraries or complex mixing sessions, 32 gigs or more might be necessary. Now let's talk about storage, specifically the type of hard drive you're using. You have two main types of drives: hard disk drives, HDD, and solid state drives, SSD. HDDs are traditional spinning drives. They are slower at reading and writing data compared to SSDs, which use flash memory to store data. When working with large audio files, virtual instrument libraries, and samples, the speed of your hard drive can have a significant impact on its performance. With an SSD, everything loads faster, whether it's your DAW, project files, or sound libraries. On an HDD, you might experience longer load times and lag when accessing files. If you're serious about efficiency, switching to an SSD can make a world of difference in speeding up your workflow. Let's take a moment to talk about VST plugins. If you've been producing for a while, you've probably heard of VST2 and VST3 plugins. The main difference between them? Efficiency. VST plugins are the newer standard and are much more efficient when it comes to CPU usage compared to VST2. This is because the VST3 plugins are more resource friendly, they only use CPU power when they're actually processing audio, and they have better support for multi-core processors. Additionally, VST3 plugins allow for features like sidechaining and sample-accurate automation, making them more versatile and optimized for modern workflows. So if you're still using VST2 plugins in your production, consider upgrading to VST3 versions for better performance and efficiency. Now, if you're running into CPU overload issues during playback or rendering, freezing and flattening tracks can be a game changer. Freezing a track temporarily converts all of its effects and instruments into a pre-rendered audio file. This helps reduce the strain on your CPU, since the computer no longer has to process that track in real time. It's a great way to free up processing power while you continue to work on other parts of your project. Flattening a track takes it a step further, turning a frozen track into a permanent audio file, meaning it no longer takes up any CPU resources at all. This is especially useful for large projects with complex arrangements. Just keep in mind, once you flatten a track, you can't easily edit it without reverting back to the original version. So why am I making this video? Well, a few weeks ago, I decided to upgrade my computer. I had previously purchased a computer that I thought would work for me. It had 16 gigs of RAM, like was recommended. It had a 512 gigabyte internal SSD drive, which was recommended. But what I didn't understand at the time was how important the processor was to music production. So I went and looked, and my Windows desktop that I've been using for the past 2 years, which started to crap out on me, was a third generation i7 processor, which is pretty old, and I didn't realize how much that was holding me back. So I decided to take the easy way out and get a Mac Mini with the M4 Pro chip and the 24 gigs of unified RAM. And it is unbelievably faster. Now, I'm not saying go out and buy a Mac. I'm just saying make sure that you're buying a computer that's going to last, that's going to be able to handle what you want to do. Otherwise, you're going to have to incorporate frustration into your schedule, which is what I was doing, and it sucked. So, buy a Mac, buy a PC. Macs are great because they're really plug and play. PCs are great because you can upgrade components over time without having to replace the whole machine. Whatever you decide on, just make sure it works for what you want to do with it. Now, if you have experience switching from Mac to PC or PC to Mac like I just did, I would love to hear your comments on it, what you found better, what you found worse. Let everybody know down in the comments section, and on your way down there, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.